Paola, I'm not going to introduce you, but just to give a recap to the audience, we have just finished 10 Commandments of YouTube Content Strategy with Yalın and Nikki Wicks. Before, it has been a really great session. I've learned a lot myself as well. I really enjoyed it. Now, I think you will be covering a session that's going to be focusing for brands, publishers, content creators, and some success tips on YouTube from various different angles, from various different perspectives. Maybe I'll let you introduce yourself and your guests, panelists, and then I'm going to take a step back and I will just listen to the presentation, rest of the presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Bengu, and thank you very much everyone who's following these 5 hours of webinar. I'm really happy to be here today with the panelists because it's very rare that it's possible to actually listen to real stories and experiences from very senior leaders in the industry. So we were happy enough and very lucky enough to put together a very varied panel with extremely interesting stories with completely different points of views, and we are really happy to share that with everyone that is following this live streaming and then listening to and watching on demand later on. So I'm really happy to introduce you to the panelists, Anna Calciolari, who has been in a global role in iProspect for a while now. Before, she was in the agency world as well, but also in Google. So she's definitely very much in everything that is cross tech and media at a global scale. We have Eduardo Beltrao from HSBC.
Paola, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there because if you could speak closer to the microphone and maybe raise your voice a little bit, that would be great.
Yep. Can you hear me any better?
I think it's better. Yes, please.
Fantastic. And then we have Eduardo Beltrao, Global Head of Social Media and Governance at HSBC. Again, super long experience in social media in different corporates at a global scale. Definitely worth listening to. Ghotra, a celebrity chef turned YouTuber, and with a very amazing growth story and a lot of good food as well, not just good food. So it's a pleasure to listen to her and definitely cook the dishes that she's teaching to the global audience. And then Tiago Martinho, Outreach Director at the Wheeler Institute for Business and Development at the London Business School. Again, a very varied background from filmmaking and engineering and turned into business school, which is extremely interesting to listen to. So as you see, like the panelists are very different among themselves, but they have definitely in common the usage for business purposes of YouTube. And you're going to be able to ask questions as well. So I hope that you're going to enjoy this panel as much as we enjoyed to put it together. Really, it was a pleasure to do it. So I think that Bengu left in the meanwhile. So bye, Bengu. Enjoy some free time while we did the webinar. So I will leave the panelists to introduce themselves and just to give you an idea of how they are leveraging YouTube as a platform, so you have a better understanding as well of their experience. So I would start from Anna.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good. Okay. Yeah, so I'm Anna Calciolari. As Paola said, I've been at iProspect for the last couple of years. I've been in the agency world for maybe 5 years now, and prior to that I was client side for a bit, and I actually started my career at Google with Paola, so it's a very small world. So in my current role, I am part of the global team, and I work as director of products and partnerships, which means essentially I'm responsible for strengthening our product capabilities and managing our product communities globally, and also delivering on the global partnerships with the likes of Google, Facebook, and other tech partners we work with.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Hari, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm Hari Ghotra. I run the Hari Ghotra business. I'm a chef. I'm a cook. I do a whole load of different things. So Hari Ghotra was born probably about 6 years ago, and it all stemmed from my need or my want to teach everybody about great Indian food and how you put Indian food together. I was doing classes in people's homes and then realized that I needed to reach a bigger audience. And that's where it was sort of born. So it was very much about sharing recipes, sharing content, sharing dishes and how you put them together with a bigger, wider audience rather than me going to one person's home. And that's where it all sort of started. We are primarily a digital platform across lots of social media channels, including YouTube. And did I say we started probably about 6 years ago? And now we are the biggest Indian food platform in the UK across all of our channels.
Well, that's absolutely great. Thank you, Hari. And now, Eduardo.
Hi guys, I'm Eduardo Beltrao. I am Global Head of Social Media Governance at HSBC. It's a big international bank. And I look after the policies and the routines that kind of look after how we use social media. Some background, I've had a pretty varied agency and corporate life. I've done quite a few first steps into online experiences as they happened back in the day. So I've kind of got a lot of experience in kind of managing change, getting things done and getting standards, making, good experiences happen. So I've been at this HSBC 7 years now. I've always been looking after digital standards and social media. I'm a bit of the go-to guy for principles, workshops, vendor discussions, research, blah, blah. And that's my day job. So how do I do YouTube? Stay tuned.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eduardo. And now back to Tiago. Actually, we go from Eduardo to Tiago, which is interesting. This is a very international panel.
It is.
Very
I was thinking
diverse,
the same thing.
I have to say. I was noticing just yesterday that this is a definitely diverse panel. I'm used to be like the only woman, for example, and possibly the only foreigner most of the times. And I'm very proud that by coincidence, it was not meant to be for diversity, but at the end of the day, I ended up to be extremely diverse, and I think it adds a lot of value. So, and with this, I leave it to Tiago.
Thank you. Great to be here. Nice to see you all. My name is Tiago Martinho. I'm the Outreach Director at the Wheeler Institute for Business and Development, which is a research center part of London Business School, which is based in London, as you can guess. And as part of my role, I'm responsible to amplify the initiatives and the activities we do at the Wheeler Institute. YouTube is one of the channels that we are currently using to promote and amplify our activities. Thank you for the introduction about my background, Paola. So I come from an engineering background in a previous life, and then I moved to filmmaking unsuccessfully, as you can tell. So I'm not a filmmaker anymore. And then meanwhile, I studied, I did an MBA, and I've been more focused on business. I worked for corporates and startups before. And I guess one of my passions is very much understanding how can we craft interesting content and engage with diversified audiences, and try to think creatively about innovation and how to sort of create, in my case at the moment, perhaps a dissertation with hundreds of pages into an interesting video of 10 minutes. So yeah, looking forward to talk more with you.
Fantastic. And just a note about Tiago, he has been doing videos with Nobel Prizes. So, I mean, I wouldn't play down, it's serious stuff. Maybe not the Oscar winner for now, but I mean, life is long.
For now. Agreed.
All right, thank you very much, Tiago. So now get into more the key learning and the experience sharing from your point of views. I would start from Hannah, which has a wealth of experience from both different backgrounds in working with, from client facing to agency, but especially on working with brands now that are definitely more and more willing to work on the platform. They were before, and they're even more now with the pandemic. That's definitely a trend that everybody has seen. What are the key learning and the key great experiences that you have seen that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, so yeah, it's difficult to decide where to start from. Definitely, I think during the pandemic, we have seen more and more brands gravitating towards social media and YouTube in particular, as you know, consumer behavior changed and people started to spend more time watching videos and consuming content. So actually something that came out of a client survey that we did a few months ago at the beginning of the lockdown in London, one of the key highlights was that most brands realized the importance of social media as a way to keep connecting to their audience and their customers. So that was definitely a good learning for us. And I mean, it's something that we have been talking about to our clients since pretty much forever, but it's good to see that clients are realizing it more and more. So in terms of best practices and tips, I think, I mean, for us being an agency, it's very important to have a consistent way of doing things. And this is something that I think can help not just brands, but YouTube creators in general. So usually when we work with a brand, what we do is we just go through a set of steps. So usually the first is assess. So that means basically looking at your YouTube channel from, you know, an SEO technical perspective, but also looking at your content and understanding where the biggest areas of opportunities may be. And then the second step is optimize. So as the word suggests, we optimize your channel by coming up with a set of recommendations that either the client can implement or we can implement. And the idea is, again, to fix all those small things like tags or you know, video titles, keywords, all of those elements that can really make a difference. And also understanding you know, where the opportunities are in terms of content. So then the third step is developing. So again, coming up with a content plan and understanding, for example, what your audience is interested in and what type of content they tend to engage with, and how we can help you to develop that type of content. And then finally, measurement. So you want to make sure you measure and you keep track of how your channel is performing, of your KPIs, and understanding both wins and challenges and opportunities, and where you can develop and take your channel even further.
Okay, brilliant. And did you see any different approaches from different areas of the world? Because you're dealing anyway with different countries with your global role.
Yeah, so yeah, there are definitely different approaches. For global companies, for example, I think it's, I mean, there are different approaches you can take with a channel. So you can have, for example, one channel with videos in different languages and targeted to different people, or you can have, I don't know, one channel per market. This is something that we see a lot with brands. Or you can have one global channel and then you can link different sub-channels, so to speak, for each market. So there's no one way of doing things, I think. So it really depends on what works for that specific brand. But in general, we try to, what we always suggest to the brands is to try and keep the channel as consistent as possible. So if you have one strategy that works, for example, in your key market, then you might want to, use that same strategy for the other markets. So if you have, for example, one channel for the UK, let's say, you might want to test, a similar approach to, I don't know, with the south of Europe, for example, if that's something that you're exploring.
Okay, fantastic. Very, very interesting. And now moving to Hari. As we were saying, you're not a born creator. I mean, YouTube wasn't your platform. You didn't start cooking just on YouTube, which makes it even more interesting because we know a lot of stories of creators now. It's a traditional thing, nearly for people that have been in the industry for long enough. But instead, you became a YouTuber, a creator in a way, but as part of your business. And you started from scratch, I mean, really from scratch. And I saw your stats, and you have been growing at an outstanding 500% growth rate year on year, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And then 5,000, you just added a zero, just in case, anybody has a zero, just put it there. 5,000% during pandemic. Now, you definitely have something to share because there are some secrets there. Because that's not a normal growth rate, that's for sure. I mean, people that are following this webinar would know what is not normal, but definitely it is not an average. So, what are the key learning you got from the pre-pandemic and as well during the pandemic, because the world has changed, and your size as well did at the same time?
So yeah, there's been lots of learnings along the way. As you said, I didn't start off being a YouTuber. It sort of gradually happened because I was creating videos for the website, and then we thought, hang on, let's put them on YouTube. And it did take a long time. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was quick. It was a very, very slow growth at the beginning. But once that started to happen, once we hit sort of 10,000, then things started to change a little bit. We tried lots of different things. Once we started to focus on YouTube as a channel, we did try a number of different things, from long video content, so content that would be engaging, but also give give more information about specific dishes, for example. But then very quickly I realized that that's only one group of people that want to sit there and just watch me cook. Another group just want to cook with me, so they want quick, short, sharp videos. So we then created some very step-by-step videos for the same recipe. So for each recipe we almost had two different things going on. One nice long video where you could sit and just watch, another one with short steps, and they both work really well, provided the right consumer goes to the right channel. Otherwise you get sorry, not the channel, but to the right video, because you then get people who don't want to see the long, who then will sort of complain a little bit. So there was that kind of thing. We also started to look at short, almost like series. So I did a spotlight on spices, and that worked really well. It was things where I'm giving information in quick, short, sharp bursts. That seemed to work really well for us, but also making it quite engaging in terms of color, looking at the color of spices and trying to draw all of that in a creative way. So those were some of the things that were happening pre-pandemic, and then we did a number of sort of behind the scenes videos which worked. When I was working in restaurants, for example, people love to see what's going on behind restaurants, so that worked really well. But post or during lockdown, one of the things that I started to do was some live cook-alongs. So every Friday I've been doing a live cook-along, and that really has gone through the roof for us. It's the engagement that we're getting on those. It very much started off as a way of trying to engage the audience who were locked in at home. Here's something that you can do and cook along with me, and let's do something fun together. We're now getting something like 1,500 people joining who are cooking. It might sound like small numbers, but for people to go out do the shopping, come back, log on and cook with you. It's quite phenomenal. And sort of pre-pandemic, our audience was very much UK based. We're now getting a massive growth in the US. So we're sort of 50-50 UK US audience. We're getting people in Australia, New Zealand who are putting their alarm clocks on and waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to cook along with me. Well, not to cook along, but to watch. And then they cook it in the evening, and then they're sending me pictures in the, you know, afterwards. So the engagement is unbelievable, and those live cook-alongs are working really, really well for us at the moment. Anything else that I can think of?
There's actually a question from the audience saying it's a good thing to move to another type of content or create new types of content because of the lockdown. I guess that what you're saying about the cook along with me is like a great example, because it's you just started doing all these live streams with these new concepts, which you could have done just the on-demand video and like you were before, but because of the lockdown you completely changed the way you were interacting with the audience basically. So
absolutely,
that's definitely lockdown, like the demands that there was during the lockdown. I was reading some stats. It was like just in March, it was YouTube was growing 70%. It was like an astonishing 70%. It's just the platform, like it's just doubling basically. So definitely there was a lot of demand. And do you think so? I guess it's good to try new formats and new ideas during special times.
Absolutely, yeah. See what's happening in the world around you and try and sort of match your creativity or your what you're creating to suit that. The other thing that we started to do was create a bit more of a loop with all of our other social media channels and YouTube. So using Instagram, using my own app that I've got and so on to communicate with those audiences, to say I'm doing this live, and there seems to be this sort of roundabout where people are then finding out what they need in terms of what dish, you know, what ingredients they need. They then go over to YouTube, do the live, and then they come back to the other channels with photographs of this is what I cooked, this is how I did it. So there seems to be this lovely sort of loop that's emerging, which is a great way to sort of bring all of those social media channels together. But the main focus for us has always been, or my biggest channel is YouTube, and then, you know, that just goes to show with all the growth that we've had recently.
Right, perfect. Actually, just one note to everyone who's watching there. We are going to share the channels of everyone, so you can actually watch them later on. Maybe not while we're talking, but it's if you want to have a look, it's you definitely are going to learn some very good recipes from Harry, learn something more from HSBC, and definitely learn and deep dive on how development could change the world from the Wheeler Institute from London Business School. Now moving to Eduardo. So based on your experience and definitely your role at HSBC, which is a regulated company, so it's definitely different than being in a smaller business in terms of communication. What are so definitely you don't have you need to be creative in how you actually leverage the platform, but really be extremely serious in what the regulation says.
Yeah, I mean, I love Harry's entrepreneurial flair. It's great to hear that. But I feel like I'm more like I'm managing a museum, and I've got all the rooms ready for the pictures and the sculptures and the things and the objets to look at. So I look after the global HSBC YouTube channel, and it's an important representation of the organization, its values, its projects, its innovations, and it's got quite a mixture of videos and playlists. It's got thought leadership, B2B videos, global campaigns, sports partnership videos. You meet the athletes, you meet the brand ambassadors, you see the big stadium events. That's all very cool. You get tech stories, and it's just managing all this. And over the years, it's been a series of uploading and make sure everything looks good, it's tidy. But ultimately, I think I'd lulled myself into believing like there is a bigger and a better version of this out there. So I'd actually identified several opportunities for a makeover over the years. And my to-do list was pretty straightforward. It's like I needed to clean up the repository and kill that approach, because I realized standalone videos don't help you grow in a structured way. They pull you over here, then they pull you over there, and it's not really consistent. You need a coherent, kind of unified sense of content. So I wanted to clean up the repository and get rid of the videos with 0 views in the past 6 months, forgotten videos and playlists I just assembled over the years. And really, I just didn't like those YouTube generated thumbnails, which were all like mid-sentence, blurred hands and everything. And I just thought, I can't do that anymore. I wanted to curate it better. I wanted to sort of have better playlists into better segments, more comprehensive topics rather than just standalone playlists. I wanted to update the branding. There was, thumbnails were a problem. Playlists were just kind of not reflecting what we wanted to say in terms of values. I wanted also to appreciate the YouTube experience more. So there are so many clever little things in YouTube that you really need to pull out and really make sure that people stay and they have longer session times as a result. So today they can come on for 1 video, they probably stay for 2 or 3, but they're more likely to come back if they feel a good experience. So end screens, cards, hashtags, subscription prompts, recommended videos, lots of things like that can help kind of drag people in, well, pull people in, and not drag, and they really make a difference. And then finally, I wanted to grow the searchability of the channel. So, so it's easier to come across, it was easy to be curious, see more SEO friendly videos and playlists. And that's a lot of meta stuff to get through. So anyway, along came an agency called Buzz My Videos, and really they really kind of brought it to life. There's just like 2,500 or so different actions that I needed to take. And what was very interesting, they did it. It started in the beginning of the year, but it really got going in lockdown. And lockdown showed it was like a control group where you see one group has no prompts, no nudges to make them do something, and the other gets all the prompts and advertising and little things to see if that makes any difference. And it was control group A, which kind of revealed itself. All these little things that we were doing to optimize the videos and the channel were really paying dividends. So we were seeing, longer session times. We're getting more natural views. There was a more noticeable native style to the channel after all the optimizations. So it's really a more curated structure, and I think that museum analogy is actually better. I feel prouder. The rooms have got better content, and you feel like, oh, I haven't seen this. Let's go over there. So there are lots of good things. See, advertising dropped during lockdown, so it was literally organic views that were happening, and we saw growth in views. There was more suggested videos that were HSBC content. YouTube search revealed more views from search results pages, and browse features were really doing a great job for us. So it felt like all these little things had really made a breakthrough, and now I feel we're much more native to the YouTube experience. So I think that's kind of my version. So Harry, wonderful entrepreneurial story there, but mine's kind of the corporate who's just done a massive tidy, and it's just like really made a big difference, a big push up in quality. I'm very happy with that. So that's my thing, waving a flag there.
Very interesting. I think that there is actually one analogy in both your cases, even if it's not as regulated for Harry, more creativity and less regulated. But I think that in both cases, the being searchable and being really discoverable because of search terms really made you shine, and that's in both cases for completely different reasons. But for example, in Harry's case, like the fact that she's becoming very popular in the US as well. While it was really popular, she was very popular in the UK, but because she has her own brand, like as a celebrity chef. But like then becoming popular because people were searching for the recipe, so they weren't searching for Harry originally, but then they became like the community that was following Harry. And the same goes for HSBC, where instead you have, of course, a strong brand. So it's not about you being searched for the brands, but they search for some topics, and then they actually discover more of your content. I think that especially like that's important in general, but especially when there are high searching times, when in the lockdown was showing that.
Yeah.
That gives a big interest in the investment you guys have been doing. And I think that sometimes it's forgotten that YouTube is a search engine, but the most important thing is that once you're optimized for YouTube, you're searchable on Google.
Yeah.
And once you actually
Definitely.
get the searches on Google and YouTube, then it becomes even more serious. Like
Yeah.
the growth is there. So I think that you definitely have that in common on many different things besides regulations, clearly. And that's extremely important, and I've seen that across the board. And it doesn't really depend on any industry you're in, but it's really making sure that people find you, and then they fall in love with you and become developers. So, and now, thank you, Eduardo. Let's move to Tiago. So you're definitely very new to the platform. I mean, the Wheeler Institute is very new, which is interesting because in most cases we all know that YouTube takes a long time, and that's it. It's not that you go on YouTube and then boom, you get millions of subscribers. And I mean, we all know it, and definitely I see that no, it doesn't happen. So it takes time. But you started in a bit by coincidence as well, like that you went viral immediately, and you went viral because of definitely the quality of the content. So you had this, like, you went so viral that then you were with your content on TV across the board, like you were everywhere. So do you want to share a bit more of your learning? And again, it's education, and it's a completely different type of content, which makes your expertise very interesting. So do you want to give any tips or like learning or anything that you learned to share today?
Sure. I can hear a noise. Paul, I think you have a noise in your background.
Sorry.
Okay. So, sure. I think, yes, that was a good question, because the beginning of our story is very different. We basically, the Wheeler Institute is one part of London Business School. So for our audience, imagine that my team and the institute I represent, it's sort of like a business unit as part of a big corporate, if that makes things easier for you to understand. And we didn't have a presence in terms of YouTube. Obviously, the school, London Business School, has a very wide presence for a number of years, but we never created any content for YouTube before. And then the beginning of our story is a sort of an interesting innovation story, because two of our professors at London Business School, at the beginning of the pandemic, they just decided to film a series of lectures about the pandemic, trying to understand COVID-19 and how could their research support, the understanding of the pandemic. So, and they just created 5 videos, filming themselves from Zoom, from their house. And those videos, with the help of BuzzMyVideos, just became viral, basically. And the Wheeler Institute was supporting those videos. So suddenly, our first pieces, they were generating lots of interest, and we had lots of media and PR interest. And we just thought there is an opportunity here. There is an opportunity to sort of promote content that normally is not traditionally promoted via YouTube. But also there is an opportunity because I think, Paola, I can hear you're great, perfect. Sorry. But yeah, there is an opportunity to engage with an audience that currently is spending more time in front of their computers than it was before. Because they have more time, because they are not commuting, and because they want to read and to see things about COVID-19. So that was the beginning of our story to start working with BuzzMyVideos. We saw, okay, we need to sort of shift the sort of content we are creating at the moment and move to multimedia. And because we have this amazing number of views and PR opportunities, I'm expecting that these numbers can be continued from now on. Because that's my first assumption, right? So it's easy. It's easy. We just create great content and the numbers will come up. So it's sort of the story. It's not the most traditional story, because then at that very moment, we created a series of conversations about COVID-19, which is called the Wheeler Institute COVID-19 series, Our focus is very much on developing countries and understanding how business can impact and solve some of the problems of developing countries. So we started to invite a number of distinguished guests to be part of these conversations, building up on the experience of our two professors. By the way, I think it's important to reference their names if you are interested, Professor Paolo Surico and Andrea Gagliotti. So we started inviting a number of people, and including, as Paola said, the Nobel Peace Awardee, Professor Muhammad Yunus, and many other experts, distinguished guests from all over the world to talk with us about COVID-19. And we started to create pieces, 20, 30 minutes, and to post them on YouTube. And YouTube started to be a platform for us. So please have in mind that my institute does not try to sell a product or a service. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is to engage with people, is to influence, is to generate awareness about the importance of business, especially in developing countries. So YouTube for us, it's a promotional platform. Sorry, a promotional channel, perhaps, yes, but also a platform where we will invite different people, and every person has their own branding. And we want to be seen as a place where different people come together, and obviously being on that platform will help them with their branding as well, and to generate interest about their research, etc. So we start to see YouTube not just as a vehicle for people to know about the Wheeler Institute, but also to give a light to our invitees, to the people that we were inviting. And that is an interesting concept for us that we are keen to explore further. And that very moment, we start to think about everything that Eduardo just mentioned. Okay, right. So now we have YouTube, we have our platform. How does this work? And it's like, okay, right. The thumbnails and hashtags and closing screens and descriptors and going through the best practices. And the number of views was not the same as we had initially. We still have very interesting number of views. We're very happy with it. But obviously, you cannot go viral every time that you post a new piece of content. And maybe in your mind, it's even more an interesting piece of content, or this one will be great because it's even more interesting than the previous one. It's not the way it works. And for us, at that moment of we start realizing, right, okay, so the quality of the content is not directly related with the number of views and being a viral or not a viral piece. But it is important for us to craft it and to optimize it well because we are reaching different audiences with it. And then that's the sort of our second stage with Buzz My Videos, and where we are at the moment is trying to understand who is our audience. Perhaps our audience is not really the people that saw the 5 initial videos that went viral. That's not our core audience. Perhaps our core audience is the one that we are nurturing at the moment. And now we're trying to understand who they are by geography, by sort of demographics, and we are looking at numbers and understanding who is our core audience, who are the people that will be continuously looking at our content, and perhaps the others that will come once or twice a year, or maybe will never come again. And I'm finding that exercise very interesting. So the work with Buzz My Videos is great in terms of optimizing, organizing our pieces and making sure that they can reach the specific audiences in specific countries. But at the same time, it's for us to realize that there is no relation necessarily between having a great piece of content in our hands and going viral. That's not how things work. Some content is topical, and because it's topical will generate more attention. Other content is not as topical, so obviously can be a brilliant film, etc., but maybe will generate attention in 2 months' time or 3 months' time. But when that happens, we want to make sure that the video and the scriptures and all of the optimization process is well done, so it can eventually become viral in the future. I feel that I just went all over the place at the moment.
No, absolutely, all good. There's a question from the audience from Mahima Bhatia. I hope that I didn't mention the name incorrectly. And says, what are your tips for a channel with educational videos? Which I guess is definitely a question for you, Tiago. Is there anything, because you're in education, like it's higher education, but anything that could be applied in anything for education that you think it could be worth mentioning?
Sure. No, it's a good question. It's a very broad question. I think in our case, YouTube, it's a channel, but it's not an isolated channel. So we do have a blog, we do have social media, we do have a website where we publish different reports and articles and other type of content. So I think when it comes to educational content, it's hard to have great content in 20 minutes only. I think we need to see the video as sort of a short engagement tool eventually, and if the person will listen to it, will absorb some of the content, and then in case of interest, redirect them to another channel or a contact point where they can learn more about. So my first, I would suggest that look at educational from an integrated perspective and make sure that the video is not just the beginning and the end of the experience, but then it has links and it can be connected to different pieces in our website, and the people, they can look for more information. That's my first part of the answer. The second one is it's the delivery, the making of the film is very important. It's not just about having the film in a great channel and having a great optimization, you know, and now we are all creating films from home, but you know, there are basic tools in terms of video making and production and storytelling that is important to know about. And we have more than 30 films uploaded to our YouTube, to the London Business School YouTube channel over the last 2 months. So, and some of the films we knew from the beginning that they would be more successful because they are very well crafted. They are, the cameras, the webcam was working better, the person is a better communicator, the lighting, the sound was working. So we kind of knew that, and that worked really well in terms of engagement with the audience, because you know, sometimes if you, in the first couple of minutes of the film, if it's not easy to absorb what's going on, the person may jump to another film. So I think that's my second. If you want an engagement for 20 or 30 minutes or an hour, you need to make sure that the quality of the delivery is there. So it's important to do some work and preparation in terms of how to film, how to record, how to edit the videos, and you know, that can be even more important than a great optimization.
Can I just add something, Tiago? That if you can get your peers in other companies and other institutions to reference your videos, they bring their own audiences to you as well. So we found that with sports videos, it was all the related sports fan sites were coming to the HSBC channel to look at sports videos, and it just brought, you know, so allowing people to use your videos as source or just extra information for them to reference does a great job as well.
Yes, totally. And we had some of the most successful videos in terms of views we have is because in social media, when we are doing a parallel promotion of the same videos, you have a number of influencers like retweeting and posting about it, and people, they obviously fall into YouTube again. And one of the most successful videos we had was actually about Russia. The video is very focused on Russia and the reality, political, economical, business reality in Russia. And that video had a huge penetration in Russia just because there were a couple of influencers from Russia posting about it in social media. So I totally agree with that.
Very interesting. I see that the filmmaker of you is coming out from time to time as well with the experience. It can't be hidden, which is a good thing. Now let's do a roundtable now about what didn't work or what you suggest not to do, or at least it didn't work in your experience. So that you would say, just guys, just don't do that because at least in your experience it didn't work out. So, and I think that in general, in social media, like in the platforms, it's really important. It's very trial and error. So you can study as much as you want and you can learn as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it's really creating new formats and trying out and read data and try and decide. So there is no golden rule. So there's no this works and that's it, and this doesn't work and that's it. But it's really learning from the experience and trying to change as much as you can. But learning from your experience, because you're also diverse, might help somebody that is potentially in your area and industry not to do the same mistake again. So starting from Hannah, what would you suggest not to do from the experience that you have with your clients?
Yeah, so I think going back to what Tiago was saying, something that we notice several times is that usually if the video is very salesy, if it's too promotional, then it doesn't work. I mean, you need to make sure that your video delivers some added value, that you're actually creating content that people resonate with. And unfortunately, I think this happens maybe more with brands than with other YouTube creators. But sometimes the content is just very salesy, or it's just not tailored to YouTube, which doesn't mean that you need to have something created specifically for YouTube. You might be able to repurpose something that you already have, but you need to think about your audience. So I think in general, something that's really important is just to understand what your brand stands for. Or what your channel stands for, and what your audience would be interested in, and what type of content they engage with, and then trying to find a sweet spot. So trying to find something in between that usually works. And then other mistakes that we see. I mean, I think it's just not getting to the point. Usually, a best practice is if you have if you're launching a video, make sure you introduce the content, make sure you're engaging the viewers from the beginning. Don't leave the call to action to the very end. Make sure your video is well structured as well. Usually it works best, for example, if you have single focused videos instead of just rambling on about several different topics. But yeah, I think it's in general, it's just nailing the small things. So some of these tips might sound really obvious, but if you just watch your videos and try to identify these mistakes, I think you can fix a lot, and you will really see the impact.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anna. And Hari, what's the thing you would never do again?
As you can imagine, I've tried lots. I've tried lots of different formats and so on, and just echoing a little bit of what Anna said, that salesy bit, I've been asked to work with lots of brands in the past just to promote knives and promote this, that and the other. And at the beginning you sort of think, oh yeah, I'll do that. And none of them have ever, people just don't like it. And I don't know whether that's because of my specific type of channel, and they're coming to me because they want to cook recipes and they want to find information about specific dishes, but that just never worked for me. The other thing that I think is quite surprising that has never really worked for me is everyone always says with YouTube in particular, to grow your channel, you've got to do collaborations and you've got to do work with, if you can, with celebrities and this, that and the other, just to increase sort of engagement and get increase your subs and so on. I've worked and I've done videos with a number of celebrities over the years, and none of them have worked. None of them have done anything. And again, I think that does that come back to the fact that it's my specific channel and it's about the audience, and they want to know about food and cooking and that kind of thing, or is it that it's just a misnomer that actually you get celebrities in and it's all going to boost your subs and so on? I don't know what the right answer is, but it's never ever worked for me. One of the things, though, talking about being salesy and product and using products in your videos, having done videos with various brands over the years, they haven't really worked. But since I've been doing the live cook-alongs, because I'm interacting with the audience, because I'm talking, because I'm cooking with them, because they're able to ask me questions, it gets to a point where I'm using a specific bit of kit and they're like, what is that? How do I get it? And they are just buying stuff straight away because I'm doing it and it's live and we're cooking together. They're buying stuff off the back of that. So they're buying my curry kits and they're buying various other bits and pieces, but it's getting them at the point where they're really, really engaged. And because they're cooking along, you've almost got, it's a different kind of dynamic to just doing a video that's talking about a specific saucepan or whatever that might be. Other things that haven't really worked for me are vlogs. So trying to be trying to be a bit cool, trying to get down with the kids and you know, do all the vlogging thing, that never worked for me. Again, I think it's all about knowing your audience, and it takes time. It takes a bit of time to get to know who your audience is and who those people are and what they're after and what it is that they want. And I think sort of 6-7 years on now, we're a little bit more clear about who they are. But I think you have to go through those up and down bits of trying different things, but keeping an eye on your stats and just making sure that you know what works and what doesn't, and don't keep flogging a dead horse.
Well, thank you very much. I think that I just noticed one thing that is very important when you do the live streaming, which is typical, people forget to do call to actions. So let's try an exercise. Just go to Ghotra right now and open up her channel, and let's see how it works. But this is very important, besides the joke. And there are very small stuff that people forget, or they think that people would act no matter what, and it doesn't work that way. People they just don't think about it, and that's absolutely fine, because sometimes we are watching something and you just don't think, and then if they tell you just go to Ghotra right now, and you're like, yeah, I actually think it's a good idea when I watch those videos and I want to learn directly from that channel. So let's see how many of you guys have opened the channel. That's going to be a nice exercise, but really when you do the live streaming or even during the video, just don't forget the call to action. That's definitely something to remember. Thank you, Ari. And actually, there's a question from the audience that is asking how the panelists are monetizing their YouTube audience. I think that you're the only case that is actually monetizing it in different ways, because it's not your only business. So I believe that
there's the ads.
But it's advertising based, but it's really like a way to drive traffic as well to your business in general, and I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, with the ads and so on, but end cards are very helpful with that, and just pushing those end cards to certain different areas within the business. So whether that be the spices, whether that be the spice kits, or whether that be the ebook, whatever it might be that we're pushing at that moment, we can use YouTube, and it's got the tools within it to be able to push to certain areas. So it is through merchandise and that kind of thing that we're monetizing, but ads as well.
Okay, brilliant. Eduardo, what are the never do again moments of your experience?
I think it's styles of video. So the classic two guys talking to each other, and there's a potted plant in the background and a white corner, and it's all very safe and sedate, and that is so old school. And you just have to be so sharp to realize what is the current language of videos. So saying "What's up, gamers?" that would be ridiculous for a bank to start. But that's a style which is very kind of clear, and my kids kind of are making fun of that every morning. So I think be episodic in your videos. That's one of the things I think I wish I'd pushed more when we're getting the videos, is that there are all these standalone videos which don't really connect with each other, as I've said it earlier. If you can actually sort of construct a story, so as Anna was saying, you don't go big in one video explaining various topics. You say break it up in small topics, and then there's more continuity. There's a more coherent way of expressing them. I think another thing that I know we don't look at is comments. So are people kind of curious about you? Yeah, I'd look at Google queries about your brand and seeing what sorts of questions come in, because we look at customer service queries that are happening over on our main website to see how can we answer them with videos. And I think that is a very useful way of kind of saying we are creating content that's in demand. So you launch a new app or a new version of an app, and the app, how do you install it, how do you use it, make a transaction. You need to do videos like that which show easy ABCs 1, 2, 3, and if you can get them right to show your style, that's great. I think those are very valuable. I mean, so Harry's World, that would make a lot of sense. You know, it's like, how do you make rice or something? I'm sure it's much better than that. But if you just show easy steps, that's you've really made the experience easy to find and valuable in the moment. And I think that's very different for a bank to do, because we're not always in the moment. We always have to be ready for other things. So it's a different sort of cycle. Does that make sense? Is that?
Absolutely. And now it's time to go to HSBC channel.
Go guys. What's up, gamers? That's the first thing you say.
So let's see the results at the end of the call to actions. Who's the winner? Sorry, Anna, I forgot about you. I'm going to do yours in a while as well. Sorry about that. Now, moving to Tiago, what are the never do again in your short experience on YouTube, but very intense?
Yes, I would repeat some of the things that the other said as well. I would bring another one, which is the speed. Try to be quick, and because in my case that's important. We're trying to bring relevant content, sometimes related with issues that are affecting the world at a certain point in time. So it's important to produce content quickly and try to optimize it and to go live as soon as we can in order to be relevant. And I think that touches on the audience that you guys also mentioned before, knowing your audience. And once you know the audience, sort of try to craft the content that they engage with. But the speed is important. Sometimes I feel that many organizations, they go through these very long processes of video production and approvals and the reviews and approvals and edits. And suddenly after 2 or 3 months or more, you're still kind of in the process of going live with a film. And sometimes it's okay, but other times it's just like it was 2 months of wasted time, perhaps. So I think speed is important nowadays, and especially if your content relates with something that is happening at the moment. And the second one is the pace of uploading things. At some point, we were uploading 5 videos a week. With we started to use YouTube relatively recently, and we're uploading 5 videos a week. Each one of the videos was a long interview with 30 minutes, sometimes more than that. So obviously you need to give time to the audience to consume your content, and you don't want to overwhelm them. So I think that was a learning for us. It doesn't matter why it happened, but it did happen. So for the future, is trying to have a more steady pace of uploading films.
Okay, and now it's time to go to youtube.com/London Business School, especially the Wheeler Institute videos, of course. There's actually a very interesting interview of Tony Wheeler, which is the founder of Lonely Planet, which is the same person that then was the donor of the institute, which I think is a very interesting story personally. So I'm sharing. Now, I think we just have 1 minute. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything else, or I'm going to choose another question from the audience. Anybody wants to add anything?
I was just going to say, for somebody like me, so a small business, only because Eduardo sort of mentioned comments, I answer every single comment that comes through on all of my channels, not just YouTube, every single, I will always respond. And it takes forever, but I think and especially if you're at the beginning of your journey, it's the only way to engage. And there's no point people putting comments and things on there and you're not responding to them, because you've got to see each person as a human being who is asking a question that you've got to respond to. So I think it's very, very important from my perspective that I do that, and I think it is for a lot of smaller businesses and content creators that they do that.
Great, thank you, Harry. One last question. Let's see in a few seconds who's going to take it. What should be the YouTube team looking like to scale up a startup effort, just in terms of size or skill sets? Who wants to take that?
I think just to start with, you've got to know who your audience is, or at least who you think your audience is at that stage when you're starting up. Your audience, or what you think your audience is, going to be compared to what it probably is are two very, very different things. So try to get a clear view of who you think they are and what it is you're trying to tell them by creating these videos. What is it that you're wanting to share with them? A lot of people that I've come into contact with over the years are just doing it because they think they should be on YouTube because everybody else is, without a clear vision as to what they're trying to do. So I think that's probably the first step.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think we need to say goodbye to the audience, and I want to really thank every one of you as panelists. It was a pleasure to have you here. I'm sure that everybody who was watching and will watch will have some fun. At least I had fun, that's for sure. And I want to thank as well Semrush, who co-organized with us these events. I think that sharing is really caring, and the fact that you guys have wanted to share all of these experiences are going to be really powerful for lots of people. I mean, we have more than 8 people registering, so definitely a lot of important knowledge. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy your YouTube experience, and keep trying and keep learning. And who knows what's going to happen the next year, and it's going to be interesting maybe to do another one in 1 year time and see where we are. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.